back to Dugmore Junction. In front of you you've got 50035 Ark Royal, and it's been sent to me to service and have a look at a couple of little issues which Class 47 Peter is having with this locomotive. Before sending this to me, he's let me know that it is quite a noisy runner. I'm suspecting it's probably going to be the driving gears or the worm drive. So we'll take a look at that. I'll show you how to take it apart and how you access that. He's also let me know that he has a lighting fault as well, where the lights are flashing on DC. I'm pretty sure that is a common fault with this locomotive anyway, but of course I will have a look to see if it's something I can resolve for him. Now throughout this video I will also give you some helpful hints and tips of how to resolve any lighting issues on the Class 50s. So if you are discovering that you are not getting the full light arrangement when they are running, hopefully the tips I will give you will help you resolve those. So as you can see, I've got the body off the locomotive now, and it is just the chassis running on the rolling road. Now at the moment the lights are actually behaving themselves. However, if I give the table just a little jolt, you can see that the red light will flash now and again. Not going to do it now, is it, typically? There you go, see? You see it's flashing away. But if I hold the bogies firm against the rolling road, it doesn't do it. And it's only when it's loose. So that would, to me, would indicate it's either the pickups or it's the back-to-back on the wheels. I will of course also check the wiring, but I'm pretty sure I can rule that out already because it runs fine when you've got it firm. And then when you shake it, you can see that the lights are flashing. So we'll have a look at that and see if we can resolve it. So just before we proceed, I want to show you a couple of little, or give you a couple of little hints and tips for the lighting issues. So if the domino lights never light up on top of the Class 50, it's normally got to do with these two contacts which sit behind the lighting PCB board. They're normally pushed in against the board. Now all you need to do is simply just get something quite long and small, maybe like a little screwdriver, get behind the plates and just gently ease them out towards the chassis, and then that will help connection against the PCB board which is inside the body shell of the loco. Now I'll show you that now. The other thing you can do as well is give them a good clean. I would always also recommend that before you put the body back on. So now when we come to the actual body itself, those two little copper tabs I just showed you, they connect to those two little tabs there. So you have to make sure they're flush in the touch-in, and also that those contacts are clean. Now we use a little bit of methylated spirit on the end of a cotton bud to clean those up, but obviously there are other things you can use. If you are going to go down the methylated spirit route or anything which has got alcohol in it, just be very, very careful that you don't get it on your fingers and get it on the bodies, because it will have a tendency to strip the paint, and that's the last thing you want to happen. So just be very careful if you are going to be cleaning those up. Again, make sure they are flush when you've got the body back on, and then that should resolve the headlight issue and also the marker light issue on your locomotive. So we're going to move on to the worm drives now. Now the worm drives are these little mechanisms here, and as you can see from this example, it's quite gungy, so it definitely needs a bit of a clean. So what we obviously got to do is take the bogies out for you to be able to do that, and you also need to disconnect the pickups from the PCB board. So we will go ahead and crack on and do that. I'm going to do it on both sides, but normally when you're diagnosing the noisy running, it is only normally one side. But of course I'd always recommend to do both, and then you've serviced them both and you have to come back to the other one later on down the road. So I'll just show you now how you go about getting those worm drives and bogies apart. So before we get started, there are 4 little tabs on the PCB board that you need to expose, and this will allow you to take the dropper wires off from the PCB board, so the bogies will be easily to detach from the chassis. I'll quickly show you which ones they are. So if I start on the right hand side, it's the 3rd one down and then the 4th one down, and then on the left hand side again it's the 3rd one down and the 4th one down. Now that's with looking at the chassis with the fan to your left. So I'm going to take those little tabs off now. That will expose the wires for the pickups which go down to the motor bogies. On the chassis you also have these 2 little black clips which hold in the wires on each side, and also on the left you have the fan drive as well. So that's all going to need to come up as well, so you can do that easily with a flat-headed screwdriver for the little plates, or with your fingernail, or for the fan you can do that with a Phillips screwdriver crosshead. So I'm going to go ahead now and start stripping this down and getting those little bits off. Also should note, this particular example does not have the fan belt on at the moment. It looks like it's been removed to improve performance. I've had mixed reviews for this with Class 50s. On some locomotives I've removed the band and it has drastically improved the performance, and on others some of the 50s will work perfectly fine with the fan running. So I think it's very much depends on your loco and how it wants to behave. Anyway, let's get on now. I'm going to take those tabs off and the fan, and we'll come back once I've done that. So now you've successfully got the little tabs off of the chassis, you're going to need to remove the wires now which go down to the pickups. So I'll let you do this. Obviously I won't show you me doing it, but you'll see there's a red one and a black one on each side. So if you just take them out of the tabs, they come out pretty easy. There's one for an example. Bring those away, and then that will be almost ready for you to take the bogie away from the chassis. Now it's going to be difficult on this angle with the camera to show you how I take the bogie away from the chassis. So what I'm going to do is take the bogie away from the chassis first, and then I'm going to put the bogie back together, and I will show you that way what you need to do to be able to remove the bogie from the chassis. I hope that makes sense. Something I have missed and I should note quickly before I move the bogie away from the chassis. You've got the drive rods here which go from the worm drive to the motor, so you will need to disconnect that from the bogies on each side as well, or depending on the side you're working on. So a simple way to do that is just to get a screwdriver in between the little hole. My hand might be in the way here, but you just push it towards the motor and it will clip straight off. And then when you go to put it back together, you will see there's like little nipples on each side at 12 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 9 o'clock and 3 o'clock if you're looking at it as an angle, and then they just clip back in easy enough. Anyway. So there's one of the bogies away from the chassis. Now if you look at the bogie carefully, where the screwdriver is here and also here, there's two little tabs, and they're on both sides of the chassis. You can see them shining. Now what you need to do is get your screwdriver underneath the tabs and you lift them each side and you keep working at them, and then go to the other side like that. I hope this is coming out on camera, like that, and it should pop off. Now that's quite difficult to do when you've got the bogie still attached to this chassis, so I'm going to show you the way I do it now, and I will apologise if my hands get in the way, but let's try it. Okay, so with the locomotive laying on its side, you can also do it on an angle as well, but just be very, very careful if you're going to put on an angle with all the detailed parts which are on the locomotive, because you will find it will very easily ping off. Now what I'll do, I'll get my screwdriver, it's hard to do it on this angle when you're filming because your hand gets in the way, so I'm not going to actually do it, but I'll pop the screwdriver in between the bogie and the chassis, and then I'll just put a little leverage on the clip like that, and it will push it away from the bogie, and then do it on the other side as well. Push it, and that should pop them off. Turn the bogie around and do it on the other side, and then what you will find is when you've got the bogie again, you'll find that the little housing which sits on top of the worm drive will be loose like that. Okay, so then what you want to do from the top of the chassis is just wiggle it around a little bit, but be very careful, and you remove the top piece of the housing, gently pull it forward, and then the bogie will pull straight away from the chassis. So I hope that explains that. If you've got any questions or you need some assistance with it, drop a message below or a comment, and obviously I'll do my best to help you. So I'm going to crack on now and get the other bogie away, and then we can have a quick look at the worm drives and see how dirty they are, give them a bit of a clean in the service, and then we'll put it all back together, and hopefully that will resolve the noisy running. And then we'll also take a look at the lights and see if we can find any other faults on the pickups or on the wiring. Or we will also check the back-to-back on the wheels as well. Right, so now we have both the bogies out from underneath the chassis, and I just want to show you the common things which happen with these worm drives. So let's just put one to the side a minute. Let's grab the other one into the camera. So I'll bring it a little bit closer for you. Let's just zoom in if it will allow me to do it. Yeah. So if I bring the bogie up to the camera, you'll see that there's a lot of deposit of white gunge and obviously oil or grease which they use when they manufacture these. Now, where you have the fluctuating hot and cold weather, it tends to, I'm not sure if it's the right word, but congeal, and when it all goes all a bit funny, to be honest. So you need to keep an eye on this, because when it all comes out the sides, you'll get dry. You'll get a dry worm drive, you see. So that's what causes the noisy squeaking, because obviously the actual worm drive itself is dry. So what we're going to do to resolve that, let's just take that cover off. I'll take the worm drive out, I'll give it a good clean, and then we'll re-lubricate it. You can see that as I'm moving that in the light, there's an awful lot of gunge there. I'll just see if I can bring it closer to the camera. You can see actually where it's green and it started going off and funny. See if I can get my light a bit closer a minute so you can see a bit better. So you can see where it started to go green, and that's not good. And you can see all the white on there as well. It's completely gunged up, so it needs a very, very good clean. And if I move that out of the way, you also see on the housing, if it's going to focus, that's the lid. And you can see where it's been coming out the lid as it is. And a lot of it come off on my fingers, but look underneath, look. So I'm just going to move the light away again. Apologies guys, I'm working in poor lighting conditions there. But yeah, look at all that gunge in there. So no wonder it's running a bit noisy. So let's move that away now. So one other thing I do want to quickly show you as well. I'm actually going to take the little worm, bring it back into shot, if it wants to focus. There we go. Let's get the light back over here. So the other thing I want to show you is the worm drive. So the worm drive is that little brass thing there. So that literally just pops straight out like that. And just see if that shows how dirty that is or not. I'm not getting very good light in our focus, so I do apologise. But yeah, he's filthy, so he needs a very good clean. He's all got black, sorry, it's all black in there as well, so you need to clean all that up, because that's not helping with the running at all. And you can see between the black plastic and also the worm drive, it's very, very messy and dirty. So that all comes apart really easily. You can clean it all up and then you can put it back together. Let's move that to one side. Now the actual inside of this bogie, if I can bring it into shot, this is not too bad, but I will give it a clean. But that's probably where it's dry and why it's making noise. Let's bring the other one into shot. See, now the other cover on this one's not too bad. Again on that one, let's bring my light across. You can see it's all black and it's built up, green as well on the right hand side of the joint. Let's take the worm drive out of this one. Oh yeah, he's really stiff. That one was really stiff, so I reckon that was the suspect one, which is causing the rubbing noise. Just bring the light across again. Oh, sorry about the string hanging in the way. So it looks wet, but if it's stiff, and it's not going to move. So he's not too bad, but you'll need a clean. And let's just get this worm drive up in front of the camera. I'm doing this all cack-handed, so I do apologise. See, look at the amount of black on that in green. So that needs a really, really good clean. And I hope that will resolve the noisy running. Anyway, I'm going to stop here now, give it all clean up, and then we'll put it back together. Well, that's all the little bits in soap, just to clean them up with some cleaning fluid. Initially, I have taken all the grease off with a bit of tissue paper, and you wouldn't believe it that just 2 of those little brass worm drives have resulted in that. Now you can see all the green in that and all the black. So yeah, don't think that grease was any good anymore. Anyway, what I'm going to do now they have a little bit of a 5-minute soak, is take them back out of the pot, clean them all up with a fresh clean piece of tissue paper, and then reassemble them. And then I'm going to move on and pop it all back together. And I also need to clean the insides where the worm drives go as well, which is in here. So we'll do all that. So I've just cleaned these up with a cotton bud on both bogies, and you wouldn't believe the state of it. Look at that, filthy dirty. And I've still got these covers to do yet. So I think they're going to be equally as mucky. So all the worm drive, so both the worm drives are now being cleaned up, and I've reassembled them both now. So they're ready to go back into the bogie. Now you might just have to play around with the tabs a little bit, but they will fit straight in. So as you can see, that's nice and clean now and ready to go. What we will do before you actually put the whole bogie back together is put a little bit of oil on there just to lubricate it and give it some fresh oil, and that should be good to go. Now the other thing was the lighting fault. Now I'm pretty sure it is the PCB board on the locomotive, but I am going to see if I can trace the fault anyway while I've got the body apart. So now what I'm going to do is bring in the other bogie, and you can see I've already started taking this one apart. So he's lovely and clean. I've checked the back-to-back on these wheels. Now you can actually take the whole of this bogie apart, but I don't want to do that because they can be a bit of a bugger to get back together. What I have done, if I can find my tool, is, like I said, check the back-to-back with one of these back-to-back tools, and I've just lined it up against all the wheels underneath and just adjusted them if they needed to be, but they haven't. They're all fine, so I'm happy with that wheel set. These are the plastic bits which obviously go on the side of the wheels. These are obviously the bogie frames, and as you can see inside, that's where the pickups are. So that is a pickup there where my fingernail is. I'm not sure if it's going to show very well on the camera. I will move it. So they quite simply do come off. So if you just take it off like that, look, give all those little contacts a clean, and also the tops. Oh, there you go. Give that a clean as well, where you can see the little hole, and then you can just pop that back together. I'll put that to one side and do that off camera. I will show you how to take these bogies apart when they are complete. They are quite fiddly, so I would say be very, very careful. The only reason I'm deciding to do this is because I have got spares, so if anything does go drastically wrong, I can always replace it with a spare for the chap. Anyway, let's just pause this now. I'm going to put the other bogie back together, and then I'll show you how to take this one apart. Right, so let's move this bogie in then. So you'll see on the bogie there is two little bars. So you've got one there on each side and one which goes across there. Now it is easier said than done, and you have to be very, very careful when you're doing this because they do have a tendency to bend, these bogie frames. But all you need to do is get some leverage, and I would recommend doing it as central as possible as you can on the bogie to the pivots, and you literally just pull very gently apart like this. All right, and then you just put a little bit of pressure on it and keep doing it, and one comes away. Oh, it's gonna be a pain on camera now. So what I'll do, I'm just gonna put that on the workbench and do it. Actually, I'll try and do it just here. Actually, hang on. No, he's not going to come away. I'm going to have to get a better angle on it. But as you can see, one's come away, and you just do the same on all the other three. So let's just see if I can do that a moment. Just take that worm drive out the way. So you've got to be very, very careful because they can bend. So there you go. He's come off quite easy on that side. Sometimes they come off easy. Sometimes they don't. Sometimes just a little bit of movement can help. There we go, and that one's come off as well. Alright, so that's how you take those bogie frames off. Anyway, what I'm going to do, I'm going to check the back-to-backs on these wheels now with my little back-to-back tool. Alright, just to see how good they are. If it's anything like the other bogie, it'd be no problem at all. And then I'm going to take the pickups off of the bogie frames and give them a good clean. And then what I'm going to do is reassemble, and then we'll look at putting the bogies back onto the chassis. The only thing I would say is if we end up putting this all back together, I'm just going to zoom in a moment. Oh, it's come down on the camera. Yeah, so if we end up putting this all back together and the lighting issue still persists, one, it's either going to be the PCB board, or two, there is something else I've noticed on these. I am not overly happy with, I'll show you, these wires that go onto the contacts here. To me, that is a really, really thin wire. I would recommend maybe changing that out for a thicker piece of wire, just for better connectivity. And some may even suggest soldering on the wire to the contact there as well. So that's another option. But anyway, let me give this all a clean up now, and then we'll pop the bogies back together. Just a side note, when you are putting the bogie frames back together against the bogie, again, err on the side of caution and be very careful, because if you're twisting these frames, they will bend and they won't go back. So be very careful. Anyway, let's get it all back together. So now the bogies are back in on both sides. I've already got one connected up, so I'm just going to show you how you go about putting the worm drive back in and also the housing cover. So now on most of the Class 50s, you will get lucky and you'll be able to remove these little back cab boards. They can be a little bit stiff, so you just got to hope they're not glued in, and just move it up slightly and out the way. Alright, and then you want to get your little worm drive, and then you just have to excuse the hand, if it doesn't fall apart. And then you just slot him in, and he sits in. So I'll move that plate out of the way so you can see. So as you can see, he's sat in there perfectly. And then you've got to get the housing on top. Now, always goes with the longest legs facing towards the motor. You tuck that underneath the back cab board. It's quite fiddly. Slide it across, and then you should hear it clip on when you put the pressure on. So that's easy as that. And then what you want to do after you've got that clipped on, you want to turn the chassis upside down and just check from underneath the bogies to make sure the 4 clips are fully clipped on and they're flush. And don't forget to put your back cab all back in. But again, with everything, just be very careful, because you don't obviously want to go breaking any wires. That's gone back in there fine, all located. Anyway, let's wire it back up and let's see if we can get it working. Now the next thing to do, like I said, is to wire this up. Now on the PCB board there will be a little number which starts with 1621-X00 something something something. If you can find that on the PCB board and go onto my channel, I'll also leave a link below. There is a wiring diagram of how to wire these back up. So I won't show you how to do that. Click on the link below if you want to go and find out how to do it. It is fairly straightforward and simple. Anyway, like I said, I'm going to get this all wired up now. So the bogies are now attached back to the chassis. The pickups are now back onto the PCB board, and the driving rods which go between the motor and the worm gears, or the worm drives should I say, have all been connected. So the only thing left to do now is, obviously apart from putting the body back on, is to put a drop of oil on the worm gears. Now they've all been cleared up, all been cleaned up should I say. So I'm just going to come across, going to put a tiny little drop just through the top there. I will show where to go in a moment, and a little drop just there. There's also a little mark just on the end which I'm going to pop a little drop on. Okay, and that is plenty. So let me just quickly show you where I went with the oil and zoom in. So there's the worm drive there, and I just put a little drop of oil through that one, spin it around, and then a little bit of oil through that hole there. Now if I bring the loco up to the camera, excuse my arm, you can see underneath the plate there, I put a little bit of oil on the end of there, and that was the same on the other side as well. So let's get it on the rolling road and see what happens, and then we can put the fan on and it'll be done. Well, it's come to the moment of truth. Let's be honest now, I am expecting it to be a little bit noisy because you've got to bear in mind I have just literally cleaned it out and only just put a drop of oil in. So I'm expecting it to be a little bit noisy, and then as the oil works around in the worm gears it should get quieter, or hopefully, fingers crossed, straight off the bat it'll be nice and quiet. So first of all, let's see if we've fixed the noisy running. So that is definitely better than it was. There is still quite a little tiny tinge coming from this side I can hear. But I'm hoping that's going to work its way through when the oil gets through the gears. So that is a lot better. Let's whack it up full power. That's good, so let's just bring the power down. Good, so that's running as it should in that direction, in the forward. So now let's just go in reverse. Now it's always an idea after you've done this to at least give them a run in each direction for half an hour, I'd recommend, after you've always given the locos a service. So again, it is still the right hand side one, which is a little bit noisier. But I'm hoping, like I said, after a bit of a run in it will disappear. So that is a lot better than it was. So now I suppose it's time to check the light fault to see if this has been resolved. So let's just bring the camera around on a different angle. So in the reverse direction at the moment, you can see the red light is solid and on. There is no white light flashing at the moment, which is good news. So let's just slow him down and bring him into the forward direction. Definitely a lot quieter going in the forward direction. Perfect, and there's no flashing red light either, which is good news. So that's gonna, you have to excuse me, I'm gonna lift the camera and bring it to the other side. Okay, and now we can just see there's no flashing light on this side. I'm just going to bring the rolling road on a better angle so you can see. So you've got solid red at the moment, which is good news. Let's just slow it down again. And let's go in the reverse. And then you've got solid white. So, job is a good one. That looks like that is a success. So I'm happy with that. So Class 47 Peter, I'll contact you on Facebook in a moment. And I'll let you know that your locomotive is ready to come home. And I hope you're happy and it's resolved your issues, mate. And then for anyone who's watching this, thank you very much for watching another one of my videos, another one of my how-tos. I hope you are finding these useful. If you need any help with your Class 50s, by all means don't be afraid to get in touch. I'll be happy to help you. There's a lot of people, me included, when I first started, are not confident taking these things apart. Class 50s is about my maximum is what I go on at the moment. But yeah, if you've got any Class 50 issues and you want some help, please don't be afraid to contact me, and we'll see what we can do to get your locomotive running smoother. So again, if you like this, don't forget to hit the like button, don't forget to subscribe, drop a comment below. Thank you very much for watching. I'm going to leave this running in half an hour in each direction now, and then we'll get this back off to Class 47 Peter. I'll leave this link below so you can check out this channel. Please do. Let them know that I sent you, and we'll see you on the next one, guys. Everybody take care, and have a good Christmas.